following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hi, welcome to Ring and All Other Sports. I'm your host, Leo Connors. Today's show, we're going to be talking about the National Hockey League. Let's hope the Bruins do a lot better this year than they did last year. We're going to talk first about the free agent signings over in the offseason. Some of the bigger acquisitions by the teams. Detroit Red Wings signed defenseman Mike Green and forward Brad Richards. The Boston Bruins picked up Matt Bolesky, and in a trade they got Jimmy Hayes, but they only got the rights to him as they signed him a couple of days later. Justin Williams went from the Los Angeles Kings to the Washington Capitals. Christian Ehrhoff, defenseman, left Pittsburgh, and he went over to L.A. Brandon Saad, forward from Chicago, went over to the Columbus Blue Jackets. Joel Ward left Washington and went to San Jose. Johnny Oduya left Chicago and went to Dallas. One of the biggest acquisitions in my eyes to help the team out was Anaheim signed Carl Hagelin, who used to play for the Rangers, who was a great penalty killer, great second, third line center. Cody Franzen, defenseman, signed with the Nashville Predators. So some of the bigger trades that were made in the offseason, the Bruins actually started it off with a couple of big trades as they traded Dougie Hamilton, defenseman, over to the Calgary Flames for the number 15th pick of the 2015 draft and 2 second-round picks also in the 2015 draft. The Bruins traded one of the big favorites of the fans, Milan Lucic, to the Los Angeles Kings for the number 13th pick of the draft in 2015, goaltender Martin Jones and defenseman Colin Miller. They ended up turning around and trading and getting rid of Martin Jones. Phil Kessel was traded over to Pittsburgh in a huge deal for draft picks. And Riley Smith and the contract for Mark Savard was traded from the Boston Bruins to Florida for what the already mentioned Jimmy Hayes. The Washington Capitals traded Troy Brouwer, Phoenix Conley, and the 2016 third-round draft pick to the St. Louis Blues for T.J. Oshie. Patrick Sharp and Stephen Jones was traded by the Chicago Blackhawks to the Dallas Stars for Trevor Daley and Ryan Garbutt. Now we're going to go into some of the predictions of how the season's going to go. The Atlantic Division is a pretty tough division with the Tampa Bay Lightning, Montreal Canadiens, Boston Bruins, Ottawa Senators, Detroit Red Wings, Florida Panthers, and the Carolina Hurricanes. Tampa Bay, which made it last year to the finals, is led by Steven Stamkos. They probably have the best 3 lines in hockey with Stamkos, Ryan Johnson, Jonathan Drouin, and goaltender Ben Bishop. The defenseman is led by Victor Hedman, who's a 6'7", 230-pound, big, solid defenseman. I think in the Atlantic Division, probably going to go with Tampa Bay winning the division with Montreal coming in second, the Boston Bruins in third, the Ottawa Senators fourth, followed by the Detroit Red Wings in fifth, Florida Panthers sixth, and Carolina Hurricanes seventh. The Metro Division is Washington Capitals, New York Rangers, Pittsburgh Penguins, New York Islanders, Philadelphia Flyers, and Columbus Blue Jackets, and the Carolina Hurricanes. Washington, who's made a big splash by grabbing T.J. Oshie, should be solid with MVP candidate Alex Ovechkin. Their goaltending is solid with Braden Holtby, who was phenomenal last year, especially in the playoffs. He pretty much won their first couple of rounds until they ran into Tampa Bay. And the prediction for the Metro Division is going to be Washington coming in first place, the Penguins in second, followed by the Rangers, Islanders, Flyers, Blue Jackets, and Carolina. Going out west to the Central Division, the defending champion Chicago Blackhawks should come in first place, followed by St. Louis Blues, the Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild, the Winnipeg Jets, Nashville Predators, and the Colorado Avalanche. Staying in the West to the Pacific Conference, the Los Angeles Kings should win the Pacific as they signed Milan Lucic, and their goaltending with Jonathan Quick is phenomenal. Sorry guys. The predictions for the Pacific Coast in the West is the Los Angeles Kings coming in first, followed by the Anaheim Ducks, Calgary Flames, San Jose Sharks, Vancouver Canucks, Edmonton Oilers, and the Arizona Coyotes. Looking into the league, it's very interesting with all the teams that have made the big moves and all that. I think in the playoffs it should be in the East, winning in the. So sorry, guys. In the East, we have Tampa Bay, Montreal, Detroit, with the wild card being the Boston Bruins coming out of the Atlantic. In the Metro, we got Washington, Pittsburgh, the Rangers, and the other wild card will be the Islanders. In the East Finals, it should be Tampa Bay versus Washington, with Washington winning that heading into the Stanley Cup Finals. In the West, in the Central, we should have Chicago, Minnesota, St. Louis, and Dallas as the wild card. In the Pacific, the Los Angeles Kings, the Anaheim Ducks, Calgary Flames, and the Winnipeg Jets with the wild card. The West Finals should feature Minnesota versus LA. So we got Washington versus LA in the Stanley Cup Finals, and I feel that the Stanley Cup winner this year will be Alex Ovechkin's Washington Capitals, where Ovechkin will finally capture his first Stanley Cup. Now, let's talk a little bit about the Boston Bruins. The Boston Bruins have made a lot of moves in the offseason. They shook up the fan base by trading fan favorite Milan Lucic, who definitely underproduced last year. We also traded Dougie Hamilton to the Calgary Flames. Dougie wouldn't sign with the Bruins. He ended up signing pretty much for the same amount of money. So we're all still trying to figure out why Dougie didn't want to sign with the Bruins. Goaltending, right now we're still trying to figure out who's going to be the backup goalie behind starter Tuukka Rask. As right now we got Jonas Gustafsson, the veteran, battling out with rookie Jeremy Smith. Gustafsson played last night against the Rangers, and the Bruins lost 3-2. Bruins got 2 goals by left winger Brett Conley, who came over last year in a trade with the Tampa Bay Lightning. Right now, the Bruins are hurting a little bit on defense, as Dennis Seidenberg went out with an injury and will be out about 8 weeks. Zdeno Chara is day-to-day. So we have some young guys that are taking care of defense. Some of the newer pickups that we got is Matt Irwin, who definitely should make the team. I'm looking for the guy that we picked up, Colin Miller, who we picked up in the Milan Lucic trade, could possibly take that 6th defenseman slot. But Bruins will also be led this year to start the season, at least on defense, by Torrey Krug and veteran Adam McQuaid. The lines for the Bruins is very interesting, as they haven't set them all completely 100% yet. But we do know that Brad Marchand will play with Patrice Bergeron. It looks to me like Louis Eriksson will be on that wing, with the second line being David Krejci, right winger David Pastrnak, and left winger Jimmy Hayes. The third line will be Ryan Spooner, centering most likely either Max Talbot and Zach Ronaldo. The fourth line should be Chris Kelly, and we're not sure who the other 2 guys are. There's a bunch of guys in camp trying to win these positions. Now, excuse me. We got some awards that are going to be given away at the end of the year, and I'd like to talk about the predictions of who might come up in the Rookie of the Year award. Now, the favorite is Connor McDavid, who was the overall #1 pick in the 2015 draft. He was drafted by the Edmonton Oilers, who have drafted first for 3 of the last 4 years. They have a very young team, but I still don't think they have the goaltending yet to take them over that hump. I think the Rookie of the Year will be Jack Eichel of the Buffalo Sabres, who was picked #2 overall. Some of the other guys that will be up for the award will be Andre Vasilevsky, goaltender of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who will start the season on the injured list. Sam Bennett, forward out of Calgary, real small, fast kid. He'll also have a shot at this title, at this award. Dylan Strome of the Arizona Coyotes, another forward. He's on the bubble to make the team. If he doesn't make it to start the season, I can guarantee you, Dylan will definitely make it sometime during the season. The Norris Trophy for the best defenseman. Well, last year, I think we all saw in the Stanley Cup playoffs that Duncan Keith of the Chicago Blackhawks was by far the best defenseman in hockey. I think Duncan is definitely the front runner for the James Norris Trophy, but some of the other candidates up will be P.K. Subban of the Montreal Canadiens, Shea Weber of the Nashville Predators, Mark Giordano of the Calgary Flames, Ryan Suter, Minnesota Wild, Brett Burns, San Jose, Oliver Ekman-Larsson's a young, big defenseman out of Arizona, and John Carlson of the Washington Capitals. And you also can't forget Ryan McDonough of the New York Rangers and Victor Hedman of the Tampa Bay Lightning. This trophy is probably going to be the closest out of them all in my eyes, as all these defensemen are fantastic players. Victor Hedman, for one, is a real big guy. I talked about him a few minutes earlier. He's 6'7", 240 pounds, throws his weight around. Very, very offensive-minded defenseman, but really does play great defense, too, on the defensive end. P.K. Subban, not a big fan of the Montreal Canadiens, but you cannot deny the skills of this kid. He's been playing in the league for about 6 years now, and he's actually, from day one, you could tell this kid was going to be a star. Mark Giordano, who probably would have been up for the award last year as he had a fantastic first half of the season before he got injured, broke his leg, and he was out for the rest of the year. Moving on to the Vezina Trophy for the top goaltender. Last year's winner, Carey Price from the Montreal Canadiens. Again, not a fan of the Montreal Canadiens, obviously, as I'm a huge Boston Bruins fan. But Carey Price ran away with this trophy as he was the best goalie on the planet. He's 27 years old. He's been in the league for 5-6 years. And some of the guys that will be challenging him for the goalie trophy will be Ben Bishop of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Pekka Rinne, the Nashville Predators, Braden Holtby, Washington Capitals, and I'm hoping Tuukka Rask of the Boston Bruins will be up there, Henrik Lundqvist of the New York Rangers, Jonathan Quick of the Los Angeles Kings, Frederick Anderson of the Anaheim Ducks, and Devin Dubnyk of the Minnesota Wild. Devin Dubnyk is a very interesting choice, as for the last couple of years, he's bounced around from team to team. And he started the season last year in Edmonton, and he didn't start the season out very well. But then he was traded over to Minnesota, and their whole team, that whole season for them, completely turned around, as he went 24-3 over a 27-game stretch. You know, some of the goalies that are on this list, each and every one of them could win this trophy. I mean, they're all that good. A lot of people are predicting Braden Holtby, especially how Washington has improved their teams offensively. Moving over to the Hart Trophy, Most Valuable Player. It pains me to say that I think Sidney Crosby's finally going to win this award again. The Penguins picked up Phil Kessel in a trade, and they're going to play together. And offensively, this is going to be unbelievable. It'd be like having, you know, when Wayne Gretzky would play on the ice with Yari Curry back in the 80s, which was one of the greatest tandem right there of scoring I've ever seen in my life. Some of the other guys that are going to be in the running for the Hart Trophy will be Steven Stamkos of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Alex Ovechkin, Washington Capitals, John Tavares of the New York Islanders, Carey Price of the Montreal Canadiens, again, Braden Holtby of the Washington Capitals, Jonathan Quick of the LA Kings, Jonathan Toews of the Chicago Blackhawks, who are going to have a hard time repeating as Stanley Cup champions this year, as they lost a few guys to free agency and made a few trades to stay underneath the salary cap. Ryan Getzlaf and Corey Perry are always up there for this award. Look for them guys to have a strong season as well. The Anaheim Ducks surprised me last year by not getting to the Stanley Cup Finals. They were beaten by the Chicago Blackhawks in a very tough series. Their goaltending was fantastic. Frederik Andersen's only been in the league for 2 years, and he's definitely turned it up a notch this last season. I expect Andersen to play about 60 games this year with his backup, playing about 20. Right now, there's about 3 guys battling for the backup spot, so I'm not positive as who will end up winning that job. Back to the Boston Bruins. As a fan of the Bruins, I was very disappointed in the season they had last year. And as a huge Milan Lucic fan, I was totally disappointed on the type of season he had. If you remember in the playoffs at the end of the year before, in 2013, as they were going through the lines with the Montreal Canadiens, Milan Lucic lost his composure and said some things he probably wished he didn't. And I'm not going to repeat the things that he said here, but, he kind of threatened people that look out for next year. And to be honest with you, where were you, Milan? Because you didn't show up last year. So now you're in LA, and let's see how you do out there. Good luck to you. I'll always be a fan, but it was definitely disappointing. Big Z, Zdeno Chara, is getting up there in age. He's at 38 years old, and he's slowing down. There's no way that Big Z can play 23, 24 minutes a game. They're going to have to cut his minutes, which means the other defensemen, like Adam McQuaid, Torrey Krug, Dennis Seidenberg, when he comes back from injury, are going to have to pick up the minutes. Like I said earlier, Matt Irwin, who came over from San Jose, should eat up a lot of minutes, especially at the beginning of the year. He's looked very, very good in preseason. Colin Miller should get that last spot, the 6th defenseman, but you never really know because with hockey, it's salary cap. You always want to try to have some money. So in the goaltending spot, obviously Tuukka Rask is going to be the starting goalie. And he's probably going to play at least 60 games. Last year, he played a little more than that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he played 68 games last year, which is a lot for any goalie. I don't think any goalie should play more than 60 games. Jeremy Smith and Jonas Gustafsson will be battling for that last slot. And the money difference between them is probably only about $400,000. But with the salary cap in hockey, $400,000 is a lot. It really is. I think Jonas Gustafsson has done well enough to win the job, but again, it's all going to come down to money, The other acquisitions we picked up in the offseason, we picked up Zach Rinaldo. We signed him as a free agent, and he came over from the Philadelphia Flyers. And I'll tell you, this kid is like a buzzsaw. He crosses the line, though, over once in a while with a little bit of dirty play. He's definitely a pest, as they like to call him, kind of like Ken Linsman of the Boston Bruins was years ago. We used to call Kenny the Rat. But Zach's fast, and he's an agitator. And actually, so far in the preseason, he's actually drew a couple of penalties. Last night against the Rangers, he got a penalty by charging into the net, which was very foolish. Cost the Bruins a goal, as the Bruins lost to the Rangers. I don't know if I said it earlier, but they lost 3-2. The season starts, like I was saying earlier, on October 12th, and Chicago will be raising their championship banner. I want to talk a little bit about Patrick Kane. Now, Patrick Kane has been, the police has opened up an investigation on a sexual assault. It's unfortunate that things like this happen, in sports, and they're public because they're in the public eye. But Patrick was and always will be one of the best hockey players playing today. He right now he's actually in camp and he's signed, but we're not sure if there's going to be any discipline action when the case goes to court. I'd like to talk a little bit about sorry, guys. I know we were talking about hockey, but I'd like to kind of finish this up here with Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Tom Brady is off to probably one of the best starts he's ever had. He, as the Patriots are now 3-0. Rob Gronkowski is is the best tight end in all of football. Tom Brady, as they were saying earlier before the season started, that Tom Brady had lost it. Well, if you ask me, he hasn't lost anything, as he has 10 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, quarterback rating of 130 out of a 150, which is pretty good. Some of the other Patriots that have surprised me so far this year is the running back Dion Lewis, number 33. He, when the Patriots decided to let Jonas Gray go, a lot of people were shaking their heads. But after that first game with Dion Lewis playing running back, who played pretty much every down, people understood why we let Jonas Gray leave. You know, the wide receiver tandem of Danny Amendola and Julian Edelman are probably two of the smallest wide receivers in the game, but two of the toughest. The Patriots are in a bye week this week, which is going to be good for everybody. Tom Brady, again, like I said, with all that Deflategate that was going on in the offseason and everything, has really showed that he's going to turn it up a notch, and I would not be surprised to see him, you know, continue to dominate this league. You know, he's got something to prove. As like I said, they said that he was over the hill. He was pretty much all done. Well, at 37 years old, he certainly doesn't look done right now. I don't know. I think the Patriots actually could probably go about 14-2, maybe better. You know, there's a lot of hatred with the Patriots, and probably rightfully so. The arrogance of Coach Bill Belichick rubs people the wrong way. Personally, I love Bill Belichick. I think he's the best coach in football. And, you know, him and Brady together are the winningest quarterback coach in the NFL history. Back to Gronk. Rob Gronkowski, if he continues to stay healthy, is going to shatter every NFL tight end record. So far, he's caught 27 passes in 3 games for 314 yards and 4 touchdowns. 6'6", 230 pounds. Hard guy to bring down. We also picked up Scott Chandler at the offseason, who was another big tight end, 6'7". So when we're down in the red zone, we got 2 6'5" or more guys, you know, for bookends for Brady to find in the end zone. The defense has surprised me quite a bit. I really thought the defensive backs was going to be tough to fill the loss of Darrelle Revis and Brandon Browner. But Malcolm Butler, the Super Bowl hero, who intercepted Russell Wilson's pass at the 2-yard line to help us win Super Bowl 49, has really turned it up as he's played against the number 1 receiver for each team. First game was a little tough as he went against Antonio Brown of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I thought he did pretty well. I expect big things from this kid. He's only 23 years old, and he's got a lot of football to play. The defensive line, Damian Easley, who we drafted 2 years ago and has been hurt almost every year, went down in I think it was the 5th play of the defensive series, the first defensive series, but has come back and has played well. Rob Ninkovich has played phenomenal. Chandler Jones, both defensive ends, have been fantastic. I expect big things from our defensive line. Linebackers, we just picked up a guy from the Bears, but Dante Hightower has really led the linebackers, and Gerard Mayo should be back soon. Excuse me. I'd like to talk about some of my upcoming guests, as pretty soon, hopefully by next week, we'll have Skype up. I've got some really big guests coming up. From the world of wrestling, I have the Underground King, Slick Wagner Brown. Local wrestler. I've watched Slick wrestle now for the past 12 years, and very impressed with Slick. We also have the Boston Bad Boy, Jason Rumble. Jason, who was trained by, actually Slick and Jason were both trained by the late, great Boston Bad Boy, Tony Rumble. We're also going to have my first guest that I had on the first show, Pat Dillon, will be back. And when Pat comes back, I'm very, very excited to to announce that I'm going to have exotic Adrian Street from the United Kingdom will be a guest on the show. Adrian started out in the United Kingdom and then came to the United States in about 1972. He wrestled all over down south, out in California, the Pacific Northwest. Adrian the exotic is very flamboyant, as you will see when he's a guest on the show. He was always led to the ring by Miss Linda. I can't believe I actually got someone of this caliber to come on to the show. I'm very, very, very excited. I'm also going to have a PWS heavyweight champion, the Boricua Beast, Dan Marv. Now, Dan's been the PWS heavyweight champion for almost a year now, and he's a big, strong Spanish wrestler. He's going to be on the show. We're also going to have, from the world of boxing, former professional women's boxer Rita Figueroa. Rita is out of Chicago. She has a very interesting story as she got injured in one of her fights. She ended up having brain surgery. And the good thing, though, is everything went well. Now Rita's been training boxers out of Chicago for Team La Guerra. She just recently had a couple of guys fight for some world titles. They came up short. But I expect big things from the La Guerra camp in the world of boxing. Like I said, Rita, I think, if I'm not mistaken, she had 12 wins. She's going to be, her story is just so interesting. But that's going to be some of the upcoming guests. Today, unfortunately, it just didn't work out. I was going to have my nephew, Kevin Polito, on as a hockey analyst, and we were going to be able to go more in depth in the NHL. I'm actually hoping that we can work something out and have Kevin in at another time, and we can go back and talk a lot more hockey. I really hope you enjoy the show. I think you're really going to enjoy the upcoming guests that we have. It's pretty much the world of wrestling is going to be covered probably more than anything else, but we're trying to get Doomsday John Howard of the UFC in studio. He's training for a big fight right now, but I expect him to be in soon. But that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it. Peace.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.